So, so I was watching George Carlin comment on soft language, and I thought I'd say something appropriate. That sounded really death related, but no, it's not that much death related, though it is death related. Um, the way I see it, from my point of view, if you are fully associated with only the existence of the body as your mind, without going into any specific moral reasons or whether or not that's a good thing or not. But let's assume you completely and utterly believe that you are only your body. Now, at the point of death, one of two things is going to happen. Either you're going to lie in the ground without consciousness, and at some point in the future, based on how I see the universe evolving more towards a single object at the end than at the beginning, in that the great cooling rip is what the universe will get. In that particular model, you will simply lie in the ground until at some point in the future, what remains of you is the memory of a single electron, which is thinking back. And it is, for all intents and purposes, a single being that was all beings thinking back on you as a being, resurrecting you by thinking about it. That is my long view on it. Assuming human civilization collapses and nobody ever rises to the level of a civilization that would want to resurrect the dead. And considering this planet's primary religion is very strictly and simply, let's resurrect the dead. And while that is impossible, let's keep a good record of who died, where, and how, and where you can find their remains, on the off chance that'll make the resurrection process easier. And then just, you know, go forward and eventually we'll all come back. As long as those types of religions, the, the religions with the promise of the good being resurrected and the evil perhaps not being resurrected, are the ones that are the dominant one, it seems likely that at some point such a resurrection technology will be in the availability of all, because of various networks of people providing those that the government does not want to provide with services. And that will ensure that such a immortality technology will not remain in the hands of the few. So the second option is that such an immortality technology, very strictly and succinctly resurrecting the dead, is within the technological capability of some civilization at some point in this universe's physical manifestation of time. If that is true, then it is reasonable to believe that they will seek to resurrect everyone, and the dead will be those that they resurrect. Now, for it to be you, it has to match your religious philosophy of what happens after death. So, if you truly believe that the only way to resurrect you is to have your physical body with all the same characteristics, with all the same memories, etc., then that is how they will resurrect you. But they will resurrect you. That is if one civilization ever in the history of the physical manifestation of the universe becomes available of doing so. Now, the first option is what I think everybody considers more likely, which is that nobody will get that technology. Now, if nobody gets that technology, then what you will have at the end of the time of the universe, in my personal philosophy, is likely to be a single ever cooling Bose-Einstein condensate that expands far faster than the speed of light or inflation because it is cooling at the edges at the speed of light and inflation. So it will cool at a rate much faster. It will never reach absolute zero, but it will become a Bose-Einstein of absolutely ginormic quantity or size. And then, because it is ultra cool, if it runs into so much as an electron as it expands, it will cause some things, because then it will be a harmonious single field collapsing towards a single point. Implosion, even in vacuum, has power. So that is what I would expect to happen in the likely scenario. If something manages to influence the universe before that end, then nice. But such is life. Now, those two are the main primary possibilities. If you consider yourself to be fully and only of your organic body, if you consider yourself to be something along the lines of spirit, soul, whatever, then these predictions hold no value to you. Your religion's holy text, as you interpret them, is, in my opinion, what will happen at the point of death for you. I very specifically believe that death is such a thing that for everyone it happens as they prefer it. That is my true belief. It speaks volumes of the incompleteness of the human soul and what it desires and why we get what we get. I would say, as far as I've observed humans, the primary cause of death is a form of boredom that humans experience when they note that there's a path of healthiness that they can take, and they make repeated choices to not do that because there is something more interesting to do. Then they have fallen into the trap of boredom. And in my opinion, while that is not singularly the only cause of death for people, it is by a vast majority. You can get a deadly disease and truly fight to the end. But for a vast majority of the Earth's population, that is not how you die. The primary cause of death for everyone on the planet, averaged out, is cardiac problems. And cardiac problems are 99.9095% stress. If you have some very obscure born in heart condition that causes you to be unable to process blood like through your system appropriately, then perhaps that is the cause of death. But for the vast majority of heart patients, stress is what kills them. And on the background, what causes them to stress out is boredom. The whole will I ever find joy again thing. So I have not seen many people die who were not bored. Most of the people who I've seen die have been bored. the death has a way of echoing back to you if you constantly send a message of disapproval about your conditions. That tends to lead to death. If you have some specific points you're happy about and you're seeking to build those, and your building efforts are to you interesting, then one might say you never die, but that is a semantic point. But in that case, perhaps stress might be the leading cause. Malnutrition and diseases come far behind in the modern world in terms of causes of death. They are large, but we are talking about different categories when we talk about the primary cause of death for everyone on the planet. Malnutrition has a tendency to hit old and poor. And while we do have a sizable portion of both on this planet, due to the fact that we are undergoing a very rapid population growth, what we have most are in fact young people. And young people doing stupid shit because they're bored and then ending up dying is mainly the cause of death, in combination with the people who actually have stuff killing themselves by overeating. So those two are linked. In, I hear the question in the air of what I would do for the world food situation were I given power, and I would say it's not a matter of finances. If, say, Elon Musk or any other single individual in the multi-billion categories just simply decided to alleviate world hunger for the next 5 years, he could do it. But after 5 years, it would be back. Making the types of long-term systematic changes to the agricultural policy of the entire planet to produce an outcome where there will be no food scarcity is an entirely different matter than simply buying everyone food for 5 years. So, yes, you could theoretically just throw a lot of money at it and it'd be okay. But in reality, that would do jack all. Do jack all. What you need to do is some form of global change, but what form that will take, nobody at the moment knows. If anybody tells you that they know what the form will be, they're probably lying. At best, they have their own idea, which for the most part is not a very good quality idea. So that is my opinion. If you die, regardless of what you believe will happen to you, what will happen to your body will be some form of burial or decomposition process. Now, as to your driving thought, depending on how you view your body, there are certain windows of resurrection available to you, and certain states of being allow access to those. But death is the greatest equalizer in that we truly do not know what is on the other side. You can watch a decomposing body forever. It will never answer the question. Is the experience one of eternal pain, as in timeless but feeling without a body? Can such a state be simulated by the use of narcotics to simulate what it feels like? If so, can you dip into it, wait 5 minutes, and dip out of it? Can you build a sense of time in timelessness? Which brings up the point of the channeling work and why it's a habitational disease. The psychosis thing. So, there are esoteric states, as in states which are not scientific but are still generally under the rule of repeatability. They're they're not considered scientific because sometimes the results vary, but they produce in most cases the same results. And those esoteric states allow you to feel. I know you don't need to do drugs to feel them. And in those states, you can feel basically anything you would imagine to be possible. And you feel a slowly building sense of nausea at the disbelief, depending on how much you adjust reality. And those states allow you to experience certain things, but keep in mind they are designed for people who no longer have a home world. So, if you particularly attach to your home world, I wouldn't advise using most of them. But if you are a homeless person on the street, somebody who's knowingly in the opposition, etc., you might find them preferable to, say, firebombing. But if you're living the good Christian life, then for the most part, you should just ignore my stream. You can watch it, but if you're really looking for the good Christian life, I'm probably not the right guy to lead you to that. Mostly on the fact that while I do see, talk to, and believe in Jesus, in that I believe his promise is true, he generally isn't lying. He's a real person. I don't know if he's the son of the God, but he is a son of a singularity and a God. So, it depends on how you see the whole femininity. But I do not think that his promise is what I'm looking for. So, in that way, I'm not a fan of this particular religion, but Jesus is an interesting character. There are many like him. Trying to find the right one is difficult. Many people advocate the no lords approach, but I find it to be lacking. I find you become a prideful wind catcher. I find that a life spent serving yourself as your lord is not a worthy life for me. There is an answer in some form in society, but I have yet to find it. The complete destruction of society in the way that complete selfishness would indicate, and the base anarcho-capitalist way of life that it would generate, to me, does not seem the best choice. I believe so strongly on the concept of reincarnation as a personal religion that I find it appropriate to pay homage in some way to your previous incarnations. They may not be necessarily your parents or close siblings, but your previous incarnations on this particular earth. If you can find none, then I'm sure that you can find people who you appreciate who have those, and then find appreciation for them as well. But that some form of society building is preferable to complete lack of lords. And I do not find that the belief that gods do not exist is true. I find that no matter what you believe in, it becomes true. I find that to be the case. So I would not go with lordship of myself for one reason. I am not smart enough to be the smartest guy. Perhaps dominion status, perhaps some minor domain. But to run my entire astral self would entail me running the entire planet, and that would not be good. So finding a dominion in the planet above you, that is the structures we've built on the surface that are taller than you in thought and in physical structures. I am finding myself losing my thought every 5 seconds, but my aura is very bright. I am finding every time I lose my train of thought, an image of a calm bluish angel saying that this thought is better not remembered by me, but by others. And then just calmly leading the thought from my mind. I can feel it going like in Harry Potter when he does that magic one thing where he empties his memories. I can feel it going, and then it's gone. If I really run fast after it and like really put energy into it, I can pull the thought back, but it's discomfortable. It's uncomfortable. It's not a pleasant experience. I would say, on a cautious estimate, at most about half a dozen government reform suggestions that I want to test remaining. Of them, I can about at least a couple do on the Australia model that I'm going to do in about a month. And it seems likely that they aren't anywhere near as interesting as the ones that have come before. We're starting to get to the latter part of the pile. Recent batch of going through the pile produced the Stirling fusion generator, which the British company kind of at the same time and kind of not. I wouldn't want to say anything officially about it, but developed the water containment fusion reactor, which is kind of like an interesting halfway point. It's not really, but it is kind of really, and it just is essentially at such a level of completion that we're talking about fusion energy into the grid in 3 years, maybe. That's how complete it is. And on the Russian side, we got the cruise missile that flies forever, and on the U.S. military side, we finally got the fucking Black Hawk to work. I've now seen one video of it, and yes, it can fly to the ISS and back. We all have our things that we're working on. Everybody gets something. The US, or rather British, fusion technology is very interesting. It's the Western equivalent of the Stirling fission, which I gave to the East, which they immediately noticed is so powerful that you can put it on a missile and it'll fly forever. Now they need to figure out if they want to do something with it or not. They know they can, but it's a different story after they've actually done the first test to actually get them to do something like true with it. And I'm not attached to it, I'm just testing it for my own sake. And the one before that, I think, was the time crystals, the Illyrium, which we finally got decoded to understand what the hell it is. Now that we have those, we can, in maybe 100 years, make a Illyrium powered UFO. And in this game, Illyrium is time crystals. It took me a while to find the proper thing. And now we have 3 to maybe 6 similar technological inventions, and they seem to be mostly agriculture and water purification from what I'm seeing. That's what they seem to be mostly. If I'm to take the test on Stellaris, which is very flimsy, for basis of algae, then it would be pretty efficient. But it would be a very flimsy test. It would be the kind of test that ends 100 miles from the object that you're intending to go. Might get some ballpark figures. Because I'm just looking at because if you do the algae fueled by carbon capture from the atmosphere, then it's extremely expensive. But if you get it from a carbon capture of a coal producing facility or any other carbon producing facility, then it's a different story. So it's very cheap to turn the carbon that we're pumping into the atmosphere into algae in a controlled way. But turning the carbon already in the atmosphere back into algae may be difficult. But the actual, like, simpler work of doing one giant pipe from chimney to an algae vat, and that's about it, is easy. It's cheap and it's easy. All you need to do, you make a concrete, one of those spinny things that you purify water in, and you channel CO2 in from one end, and then you spin it, and then you put algae seeds in it, and that's about it. I don't like to keep the camera recording if we're getting something loud in the background. Because if there is anything that is like truly interesting, I would prefer not to immediately broadcast it to everybody because the rule is kind of similar as with phones. You can have a live conversation, you can do that sort of stuff, but after a point, it is with walls built in the 18th to 19th century a little unpleasant. So, for the most part, I'm preferring not to do videos unless there's something really loud associated with the video, like playing a video game, which is why I've been trying to not do them at night. But that is the situation we live in. Reality of this utopia is far from utopian. Okay, so that's about it for the death topic. Put some like music on. So, what's your guys' take on Ukraine? I know that's the hot topic about the news today. My take is that I'm seeing a disturbing trend of if you work with a Ukrainian, the Russians will invade them. That's all I'm saying. From my best take on how to relate to these particular powers, I'm seeing Russia as either the single woman, or sorry, the single parent woman, or the boy specifically. And I'm seeing Ukraine as either the successful, very pro, very westernized family, which thinks of the single parent as, what are you doing, Toveri? You know. And I'm seeing as the war escalates, every party do what I knew would happen. For example, if ground war hit the US, which is that the different parties of the Federation are starting to break off into shards and defend the countries they're initially from, but they're going to defend them against, foreign and domestic, which means that they're going to be akin to the US National Guard. In that, if you look at, for example, the assassination action against the Putin allied space guy's daughter, you'll see that the person who did it was the basically single mother icon who fled to the little country, which is Estonia. That's, the story of what happened. So these different groups are eventually, as the light of the West shines upon the communal actions of the collective, let's call it Eastern subconscious, people are going to shatter and start to form into their own groups. And most of these groups will be openly hostile, but do conduct some very deep work with the nation that they shatter from. But they will be, what's the word? more concerned about falling to the greater Western threat than they are about the Eastern threat because they have asserted their independence from the East since they will be known by their actions against the East. So after they align with the West, their amongst the first course of actions will be making sure that the West doesn't destroy them in the process. They may fear the bear, but eventually they do want their independence as well. They will form a group of nations hunting the bear, but they will not stay aligned to a single king forever. Yes, hubris. The belief that our generation is the one that is different from all the others, and we have the one union amongst all the nations that will not collapse, or will collapse and take the planet with it. Very cute. Very cute. We are the first Atlantis. Ah, yes. The Hindus need not have nuclear boom boom. No, perhaps not, but they have them now. You want them to alter history with one of those hidden in time space and space time? Hit like a abandoned hillside village in 5000 BC. Started real old-fashioned religious war. Because nuclear weapons can be targeted right away, which is, you know, 1 foot, 2 foot, second density, third density.
Just had a pretty interesting thought.
Horses have been used within video games since 1995, when the Golden Dragon appeared within a
Yeah, I think that. Thank you for watching. Bye.